There is a voice inside your mind that speaks more than anyone in your entire life. It comments, criticizes, imagines, judges, fears, complains, compares, warns, and repeats. You wake up with this voice. You eat with this voice. You fall asleep with this voice. And, most tragically, you live your entire life believing that this voice is you. But today something extraordinary will happen. You will realize, perhaps for the first time in decades, that this voice is not your identity, but the prison that has shaped your whole life without your consent. If a stranger spoke to you the way your thoughts speak to you, you would never tolerate them. You would walk away instantly. But because the voice speaks in the first person, I'm not enough, I always fail, something bad will happen. You trust it blindly. You obey it. You believe everything it says. Today, you will look at this voice with absolute honesty. You will see how much suffering it has caused, and you will see the possibility of freedom. Thinking was meant to be a tool, but for most people, it has become a torment. You do not simply think, you overthink. You replay disastrous scenes that never happened. You rehearse future failures as if they were guaranteed. You create entire stories of fear in a matter of seconds. And every thought creates emotional storms in your body. Your heart races, your chest tightens, your breath becomes shallow. Not because the world is unsafe, but because your mind keeps telling you it is. The inner voice is not evil, it is ancient. It was designed to predict danger, to analyze threats, to imagine worst-case scenarios that helped your ancestors survive. But now, the voice does not know the difference between a real threat and a message someone didn't answer, or an email you haven't replied to, or a memory from 10 years ago. The voice is outdated, yet we allow it to control a modern life it was never designed for. Your mind creates around 60,000 thoughts per day, and most of them are repetitive, negative, or based on fear. Your inner voice rarely says, "You're strong, you're safe, everything is fine." Instead, it whispers, "You're late, you're behind, you're not enough, you're failing. No wonder you are tired. You are not tired from life, you are tired from your mind." A small problem happens, but the voice magnifies it, repeats it, analyzes it from every angle. Something simple becomes a crisis, and something harmless becomes a threat. This is the emotional echo chamber, a storm created not by life, but by the mind interpreting life through fear. This is the beginning of awakening. The moment you notice the voice instead of being the voice. You hear a thought arising. I'm never going to get better. And something inside you whispers, oh, there's the thought again. This separation is freedom. You take your life back from the voice. The inner voice gets stronger the more emotional you feel. It feeds on anxiety. It feeds on insecurity. It feeds on fear. It speaks louder when you are tired, stressed, or alone. The voice is not interested in truth. It is interested in survival. And the only way it survives is through your suffering. Thoughts aren't abstract. Your body listens to every single one. When the voice says something is wrong, your body tightens. When it says you're not enough, your heart sinks. When it says people don't like you, your stomach knots. This is why so many people live with constant tension, not because their life is stressful, but because their thoughts are. Have you noticed? The voice becomes loudest at night when the world is quiet and your defenses are down. It becomes loudest after a mistake, after a rejection, after uncertainty. It waits patiently, and then it strikes. But once you see this clearly, the voice loses its power. Thoughts sound convincing. They speak with authority. They feel real. But thoughts are not truth. They are habits, patterns, echoes from your past, old conditioning, leftover fears. Just because a thought feels real does not mean it is real. Your mind is not a truth teller, it is a storyteller. It invents scenarios, imagines future disasters, creates conflicts that never happened, builds fantasies of failure. The voice is addicted to drama, and you have believed its stories your entire life. You cannot win a fight against your mind because fighting is thinking. The more you resist your thoughts, the stronger they become. Some people spend years trying to control their mind, not realizing that control is just another form of fear. You don't silence the voice through force. You silence it through awareness. When a thought arises, you simply watch it. You don't push it away. You don't argue with it. You don't fight it. You watch it like a cloud passing through the sky. Temporary, unstable, not personal. This is presence. This is awakening. The next time the voice says, "You are not enough," you simply say, "There is a thought of not being enough." Suddenly, you separate yourself from the story. This simple shift breaks decades of conditioning. You are no longer the character in the story. You are the awareness observing the story. Many thoughts in your mind are not yours at all. They come from parents, teachers, society, culture, trauma, fear. You inherited them, you absorbed them, you repeated them, but they were never your voice. You simply mistook them for your identity. The ego cannot live in peace. It only survives by creating issues. If nothing is wrong, it will invent something. If life is calm, it will imagine chaos. If you feel happy, it will whisper a reason to worry. Your peace is the ego's death. Your inner voice lives in two places only, the past and the future. It never lives here. It replays what hurt you. It imagines what could hurt you. It pulls you out of the only moment you can actually live in, the present. This is the core of suffering. When you believe your thoughts, you disappear. You become the fear. You become the wound. You become the insecurity. You forget your true identity, the awareness that is untouched by thought. Freedom begins when you pause, when you stop reacting to every thought as if it were a command, when you allow the voice to speak without obeying it. This is the first taste of inner liberation. The mind lives in the past and future. The body lives now. When you focus on your breath, your awareness returns to the present moment. The voice loses its audience. It can no longer trap you. Breathing consciously is an act of rebellion against the unconscious mind. Behind every thought, there is a space, a silence, a stillness, a presence. This presence is who you actually are. Thoughts come and go. Emotions come and go. Experiences come and go. But presence remains. The moment you begin to awaken, the voice will get louder. It will say, "This isn't working. You'll always be like this. You can't change." This resistance is proof that awakening has already begun. Nothing about you is broken. Nothing is wrong with you. Your mind has simply been overstimulated, overloaded, under-observed. Your thoughts have never been watched, so they became wild. Awareness is how you tame the mind, not discipline. When the voice softens, your breath deepens, your muscles relax, your heartbeat slows, your chest opens. This is not spiritual poetry, it is biology. Your body finally understands that the danger was never real. The goal is not to eliminate all thoughts. The mind will continue producing them. That is its nature. The transformation happens when you stop taking thoughts as truth. Thoughts lose their power when they lose your belief. For many people, the harshest voice in their life is their own. You criticize yourself for mistakes, for imperfections, for being human. But the critic is not your wisdom speaking. It is your wounded self. The inner critic is the voice of old pain. You cannot heal the voice with punishment, or with force, or with aggression. The voice softens when it meets compassion. Not, "I'm terrible," but "it's okay. This feeling will pass." Gentleness rewires the entire mind. Fear always speaks in the same patterns. What if this goes wrong? What if I fail? What if they leave? What if something bad happens? But here's the secret. If the voice keeps predicting disaster, and disaster rarely comes, why trust the voice at all? Imagine you're listening to a loud radio. At first you think, this noise is unbearable. Then you find the volume dial and you slowly turn it down. This is what awareness does. The voice doesn't disappear, but it becomes background noise. You no longer live inside it. When you awaken, you begin to notice something profound. Everyone you meet is fighting their own inner voice, their anger, their negativity, their reactions, their coldness, their anxiety. It is never personal. Most people are simply unconscious. When you stop identifying with the voice, your reactions change. Someone criticizes you and you don't collapse. Something goes wrong and you don't panic. A fear appears and you don't obey it. Presence gives you power over emotional storms. Every time you react emotionally to a thought, the voice grows stronger. Every time you watch it calmly, it grows weaker. This is the formula. Attention strengthens. Awareness dissolves. When thoughts fade, you do not disappear. You expand. You become spacious, open, lighter, more live. The silence behind the mind is your true home. It is where you have always belonged. You once believed you were trapped inside your mind, trapped inside your fears, trapped inside your thoughts. But now you see the truth. The prison was never real. It was built from stories, constructed from fear, reinforced with imagination. And the door, it was open the entire time. Today, you step out. Today, you take your life back. Today, you return to yourself. Welcome to peace. Welcome to presence. Welcome to freedom. Most reactions are habits wearing the mask of urgency. A rude message arrives and your automatic chain fires. Interpret, personalize, spiral. Break the chain by introducing a tiny ritual the moment the trigger appears. For example, when you feel your chest tighten, place your right hand on your heart and breathe for 6 slow counts. That simple movement becomes the replacement for reaction. It's awkward at first. The ego protests with doubts. It won't change anything. Keep doing it. Neural pathways love repetition. Over weeks, the ritual becomes the new loop. Trigger, ritual, calm. And the old reactive loop loses fuel. You haven't suppressed emotion. You've given it a healthy container. The voice still speaks, but now you have a gentle practice that intercepts and transforms how those thoughts land in the body. Imagine a farmer who tends 2 fields. One field he waters and weeds obsessively. It becomes exhausted and poor. The other he tends with presence. He shows up, walks the rows, listens to the soil, and gently waters when needed. Over time, the second field thrives. Your mind is like the first field when you fixate on thoughts. Your being is like the second when you rest in presence. The point is not moralizing, it's practical. Attention is fertilizer. Where you place it, grows. Use this story as a daily reminder. Are you tilling the exhausted field of thought, or listening to the fertile soil beneath? Not everyone can sit for an hour. Presence must be portable. Here are 5 micro practices you can do anywhere. 1. The 2-second pause. Before answering, inhale twice and wait 2 seconds. 2. The grounding 5. Feel 5 different body points: left foot, right foot, left hand, right hand, chest. 3. The object witness. Pick a small object and observe it for 60 seconds as if you've never seen it. 4. The slow sip. When drinking, take 3 slow sips and fully taste. 5. The quiet label. When anxious thought arises, label it aloud. Worry. Practice these repeatedly. Small windows of presence create a reservoir that changes how the voice holds power over you. Relapse into old thought patterns is normal. Don't treat it as failure. Treat it as data. When you fall in, observe what preceded it. Fatigue, sugar, loneliness, a plan undone. Identify the trigger and write it down. Then choose one tiny corrective action within your control. A short walk, a call to one person, a reset breath. Radical compassion matters here. Chastising yourself only feeds the egoic loop. A practical ritual after relapse could be a reset minute. Breathe for 60 seconds. Place hands on knees. Say, I return. Over time, relapse frequency drops because you stop amplifying mistakes into long dramas. Language shapes experience. Replace "I'm broken" with "I'm struggling right now." Replace "I always fail" with "There was an outcome I didn't expect." Tiny verbal shifts open new neurological pathways. Avoid absolutist words, always, never, forever, because they feed the voice's dramatic scripts. Use present tense concrete phrases. My chest feels tight. There's a thought about not being enough. The honest, factual language creates space. The dramatic language fuels the voice. Teach this to yourself like a skill. Speak to your inner world as if you were coaching a frightened child. Steady, factual, kind. Sometimes the inner voice is too loud to hear your own witness. Invite a trusted friend to be an external witness. Share a simple phrase. If I start spiraling, say 3 breaths. The presence of another person interrupts the inner loop because social cues carry weight. This practice is not dependency, it's scaffolding. Over months, the internal witness strengthens, and you can rely less on external cues. This is teamwork between your social brain and your reflective self, a fast track to anchoring presence in real life. Mental images can soothe or agitate. The voice often fuels itself with catastrophic imagery. Train a counter image, a lake at dawn, a warm light inside the chest, a safe door closing gently. When anxiety rises, call that image into focus for 30 seconds. Use multisensory detail, temperature, sound, texture, so the brain believes it. Practice daily, imagery becomes a reliable mental refuge you can enter when the voice gets loud. This is not escapism, it's an intentional shift of attention that reconditions your emotional responses. Stand before a mirror and speak to the person looking back, but from the perspective of the voice. You always mess up. Then switch and speak as the witness. I see fear, and I'm here. Do this 3 times. It sounds awkward, but it makes visible the split between thought and awareness. The mirror amplifies self-recognition and accelerates the moment when you truly feel, this is not just thought, this is habit. Use the mirror exercise weekly. It's a direct confrontation that dissolves the story power of the inner critic. Attention is capital. If you invest it in worry, comparison, or what-ifs, you compound anxiety. If you invest it in breath, presence, curiosity, or service, you compound resilience. Think like an investor. What are your attention returns? Audit 1 week of media, conversations, and self-talk. Where is your attention being spent? Make a small reallocation plan. Replace 1 hour of doom scrolling with 30 minutes of presence practice and 30 minutes of learning something nourishing. Over time, your inner economy shifts and the voice has less currency. Not every critical thought is useless. Some thoughts are signals, useful feedback about action and safety. Learn to distinguish between A. Alarm that motivates skillful change, useful, and B. Alarm that replays trauma or comparison, unhelpful. Test the thought with a simple question. Is this actionable now? If yes, make a small concrete plan. If no, label it and let it pass. This discernment short-circuits rumination and allows the mind to be a tool, not a tyrant. You create external boundaries to protect time and energy. Create internal boundaries to protect your presence. Decide in advance. I will not entertain conversations about X between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Or, I won't rehearse worst-case scenarios while driving. These internal rules are like speed limits on the highway of your mind. They reduce runaway thought and protect the nervous system. Make them simple, non-judgmental, and enforce them with the same consistency you use for a work deadline. Physical movement interrupts the voice powerfully. Fast walks, stretching, chi stretching, or slow yoga shift breath and hormones. Designate a movement response for moments of spiraling. 2 minutes of brisk pace, a few rounds of shoulder rolls, a single standing sun salutation. Movement focuses attention in the body and gives the mind less bandwidth to spin. Combined with breath, it is one of the fastest ways back to presence. Progress in presence is not linear. Track 3 gentle metrics. 1. Frequency of noticing the voice, how often you catch it. 2. Average recovery time, how long until you return to calm. 3. Relational tone. Do your close relationships feel less reactive? Log them weekly, not daily. This creates a compassionate view of growth. You see trend lines instead of one-off mistakes. Celebrate small wins. 5 seconds longer of calm. 1 fewer late-night spiral. These micro-wins are the foundation of lasting change. If you teach presence to someone else, do it by pointing to their experience, not by handing them your method as doctrine. Ask questions. What do you notice in your body? When did you last feel still? Invite them to experiment. Avoid offering a step-by-step my way that becomes another method to cling to. The deepest help is always the one that returns the person to their own direct experience. Serve as a mirror, not as a manual. Everything you've learned leads to this invitation. Live from the witness. When you make decisions, let the voice be one input among many, not the law. Approach relationships, work, and rest with the calm of someone who knows their mind is noisy, but not ultimate. The world will still present challenge, surprise, and sorrow. That doesn't disappear. but your orientation changes. You become someone who navigates storms with clarity and compassion. That is not some distant ideal. It is the practical next step for anyone who is tired of being controlled by inner chatter.